Welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest. Dr. Joe, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Rod. Thank you. And thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Please introduce yourself in the name of your business.
I'm Dr. Joe, and my business is called TulaSoul.
Awesome. We so look forward to learning more about your business. But before that, we want to learn a little bit more about your story. And we understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. I decided to be a psychologist when I was 12 years old and in treatment for anorexia. So that was kind of nice because I knew my whole life what I was going to be and do. So I became a psychologist and practiced in private practice for 13 years. And then I had a relapse of anorexia in 2009. And what happened is I was practicing professionally, but I was not paying attention to what was happening internally and in my body. When I was in treatment, then I really didn't want to recover. And then I went to a yoga body image class. And I got into my first Warrior 2, and I remember I had three thoughts. My first was, I don't have to loathe my body. And that was mind-blowing to me because I realized I had been hating my body my whole life. The second was, I have muscles, and I actually felt my muscles. I was so disconnected from my body. So it was a revelation to be in my body. And the third thought was, I have to share this gift with my clients. So the day after I graduated, I started yoga teacher training. And that changed my whole way of thinking about treatment and helping clients. So I ended up switching from psychology. I got my coaching certifications and I started practicing Eastern medicine. And so that shifted the way that I thought about working with clients and my whole model of healing.
Now, as far as for yourself, I always like to go back a little bit and get to the origin. Now, I understand there was some trauma that was going on early, but what made you know at 12 years old you were going to, be able to help people in the future? Did you have influence from your parents? Was there the person you saw to help you through yours that made you make that decision? What pushed you towards that?
Yeah, I think I was very much parentified growing up with an alcoholic father and non-working father. And then when I was in treatment, I just admired the psychologists that were helping me. And I also everybody in treatment was older than me. I was only 12. And pretty soon I was running the groups. I was the first one to check in and with my feelings. And I had this natural ability to listen to people and to help them. So it was very much a calling, and I knew that I wanted to help people. It was just in my nature to help people. So I knew it was very much a gift of being in treatment that I just knew what I was going to do. And through really rough times in my teens and early 20s, that is what kept me going too.
Yeah.
Just knowing that I had a calling.
Gotcha.
So it was never a doubt.
Okay. Now, you said that it was about a 10-year span. Seems like things were coming along pretty good. And then you said you hit another rough patch, but you had been helping others and, I'm sure you were learning about it. What was that? Was it just a remembrance or a thought or something happened? What made you go back to what wasn't so great?
Well, I think what happened is, I actually flew out to California to go to my aunt's wedding, and she had struggled with eating disorders her whole life as well. And when I saw her, she was very, very ill, and seeing her was kind of a trigger. But I also think I was working very hard, probably overworking and not paying attention to my own well-being. And I think that contributed. And I was very much, when you're working hard, you can intellectualize things, and you can, when you're staying in the fixing others mode, you forget that you need to take care of yourself. So I just kind of slipped back into eating disorders are notoriously insidious. They creep up on you very quickly. And it's also with anorexia, it's something that is, the symptoms aren't something that you want to get rid of because they sort of feed on it. It's not like something like alcohol where you're having direct consequences, like you're getting DWIs and stuff. I mean, the consequences are kind of hidden until it becomes very serious. So I had to go to treatment because of my failing health. But when I'm in treatment, I was so low that I thought, I mean, what happens is the terror of gaining, it's not about being thin at all. It's the terror of gaining weight is psychotic. Like I thought, okay, if I gain 5 pounds, I would rather be dead.
Hmm.
Um, and so it was like the idea of being in this yoga class where I could actually experience the embodiment was so hopeful to me. That's what turned the corner. And that's when I realized this is a healing modality that I have to bring into my own practice, that
Hmm.
I need to share. And then beyond yoga, I got into Eastern philosophy, Reiki, somatic work, and that just enhanced who I was and then also who I am as a practitioner.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you came across the yoga. That was going to be my next question. Did you just so happen to stumble up on it? You saw a flyer on the board, or was it a recommended? What got you to yoga?
Yeah, it was actually part of the treatment. I was in treatment for over a year,
Hmm.
and it was part of the treatment program that I went to. It's the Emily program in Minnesota.
Hmm.
It's a well-rounded treatment, and I had to go. And you know, the first time I went, I was like, oh, this is going to be kind of corny. But again, I got into Warrior Two, and something just I just dropped into my body,
Hmm.
and the tears were rolling down. I was like, oh, I found my heaven.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yoga can be very transformational for a lot of people. And since then, I've taken over 1,200 teacher training hours. I practice and teach all of the different varieties. It's a very potent medicine.
Oh,
Hmm.
nice, nice. Well, I'm glad
Hmm.
that was there to help you to get back on track. Now you got
Yeah,
things back refocused. You found your
yeah,
body, like I said. You felt your muscles.
yeah.
When you got on that path, did you go into a group situation with working with other clinicians, or did you go out on your own? What happened after everything got back on the right path?
Well, I started a new business. I closed my private practice and I started a new business coaching. And I did a lot of training for a while and a lot of inner work, um, doing the yoga training. And I went on some retreats, some
Hmm.
women's retreats to just really get solid in who I was and in a business plan of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to teach. And then I started seeing people solo and I started teaching classes. And it just all kind of fell together. I had a lot of spiritual awakenings,
Hmm.
and in my own healing from sexual abuse and things like that, my body started to do the healing for me. I didn't necessarily even need to go anywhere. I started having seizures. I started having these weird bodily reactions, which I thought, okay, there's something wrong with me. But then my body taught me, no, this is discharging trauma.
Hmm.
This is, and so a lot of my work that I do now is simply my body taught me how to do.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of a divine healing that I feel very privileged to have. And so I can teach um, both by professional and personal experience. Um, so I have this, when I talk about embodiment, it's something that has been lived through me. So it's a really unique experience that I can share with people.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense because you've actually been through it. There's a lot of time you
Yes,
have coaches and, people who are trying to teach things that have only read it, and haven't
yes,
actually physically been through it. And I'm sure that
yeah.
knowledge helps you to help others. Now, I know when you were starting a new thing, was it the modality of the yoga that you added that made you start it, or was there an event that happened that just made you burn the ship and go into this new thing? What happened to make you, start the new?
I think it was the yoga that kind of tipped it off, and then there was some spiritual awakenings where I guess I can the only way I can describe it is I touched death.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so when you do that, you have a whole different uh, conception of time being not linear. And also, I have the experience and the training to do, it's not really internal family systems, but it's a way of um, dealing with, I call them my littles, the parts of me that have not been necessarily nurtured and come forward in times of stress. For example, one example, I was arguing with my husband. He wasn't necessarily being frightening, but I found myself crawling behind a plant. And I asked myself, how old am I right now? And I felt like I was about 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of came back to, and I said, and I pretended I was looking at my 4-year old and I said, I'm sorry, honey, you didn't get your needs met, did you? You're scared. And you know what? I've got you. You're not in danger anymore. And you can go up play, okay? Because I got you. And I've had to do this with my littles over and over and over
Hmm.
because they keep showing up because they have needs that weren't attended to. So this is a process that I do, and I teach clients how to attend to the littles that still have needs and are still showing up. And I think we all have that. Some people to a greater degree are more fragmented, but we all have, because we're all always the parts of us, our whole, and the older parts of us too.
Hmm.
So it's something that I practice and teach people how to kind of reparent their parts and integrate them a little bit.
Yes.
Like my teenage hellion rebel comes out a lot, and I can get myself into trouble.
Right, right.
I love her, but
Hmm.
she gets me in trouble.
Right.
So learning how to navigate that.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense, and that's what I was going to link me into what's next and how you're helping others. Now, I know you're
Mhm.
up north. Do you have a physical location? Are you helping people online? Tell us a little bit about your business, and
Mhm.
who are those ideal people you're trying to get in front of.
Sure. Yeah, I work mainly online, but I actually have a location, the Amiel Loft in Minneapolis, where I do some groups and some classes. And I also travel to people's places,
Hmm.
local. So, and I also do retreats so far in Minneapolis, but I will hopefully be doing across the country. My ideal client is any woman who's struggling with, excuse me, integration or different kind of burnout issues. I work with a lot of professional women
Hmm.
who struggle with burnout and are just kind of feeling lost or have gone through a divorce. And, women who are in menopause, I have a whole nother theory about that, um, and struggling with identity. I love working with women who struggle with eating disorder and body image because that's so familiar to me, and it's such a often a lifelong thing, and it's such a really hard thing to address, but I actually bring a lot of hope, and I know that recovery is possible. And so I work with that, and I work with people who are parenting or uh, children leaving the nest and how to refine themselves. I love working with women who are sort of at the point where they're feeling lost and at the end of their caregiving role, and sort of, and maybe just got divorced and don't know who they are. And my thing about menopause is, we look at it as this end of, child rearing. Oh, poor, let's treat the symptoms. Bullshit. I think it's a renaissance time because it's at the peak of, you're done with your child rearing, and you're, kind of at the peak of your job. If you're working, if you're not, great. And so it's a time to, like I said, do the reparenting of the parts and figure out who you really are and discover your passion and go for it. Right? Like this is the time when we're at our peak sexually and in a lot of other ways. It's not that we lose our sex drive, it's that we haven't learned how to explore our own sexuality. So I teach tantra, and not for the men or the partner or whatever, but for ourselves. And so I teach tantric masturbation, and there's other things we can explore, our fun passion, things like that, and surround ourselves with women. I do women's circles, which is really, really important. I think we need to heal the sister wound. And so I promote women's circles and teach how to do those, how to facilitate those. I think it's a wonderful time for women.
Yes, yes, that is magnificent. Thank you so much for sharing what it is and how you're helping. Now, I do have a question for you of the mind is something hard to navigate. Like it's hard for you to try to navigate my mind. But for
Hmm.
me to navigate my mind is a crazy battlefield. I can be in the
Hmm.
middle of all of it and not know
Hmm.
it for years and years.
Yes.
What is it that something a young lady or a woman could see, okay, I might need help? What are some of those
Hmm.
things that they can listen to you today to hear, oh, I am doing that. Maybe I do need assistance. What are some of those
Hmm.
triggers for them?
Sure. First of all, the way that you talk to yourself. So, for example, I get up, I used to think to myself, I I'm unworthy. Throughout the day I'd be thinking to myself, oh, I just made another mistake. I'm horrible. Or, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve that. Or always questioning, even after a conversation, I'd be like, did I say that right? Or, oh, I wonder what they think about that. Always just going over things in my mind and worrying and thinking about the future and the past, never fully present. And just that's just how it was. But now I can be like, I have a conversation, even if I have a conflict, I leave it there. It's like, I'm done with it. I'm always fully present. And I am not worried about the future. I'm not worried about the past. I'm just right here. And it's such a blessing. It's so freeing. And if I have a conflict, I know how to communicate so that I feel good about it. And I don't take on the other person's feelings. I'm not responsible for them.
Hmm.
And when I look in the mirror, I actually say, I love you to myself, looking myself in the eyes. That sounds crazy when I first thought about doing it, but I do. And I have my clients work up to that.
Hmm.
And I can actually say that I love my body, which is like, whoa. And I don't do diet. I eat what I want. And for someone with an eating disorder, it's amazing. So I find all these little miracles, and I notice little miracles. Little things make me happy. Seeing flowers, seeing the rain, just it's a different way of being when you're grateful for everything and when you're not negative all the time. And other things like burnout, like being exhausted, hardly wanting to go to work or not finding any joy in anything.
Hmm.
Um, not being able to experience joy in relationships anymore, feeling like they're more of a burden than a pleasure. Anything like that is definitely a sign. And women, we're so tough and we're so, I can get through this on my own. It doesn't have to be that way. And also, if you don't have any good solid female friendships where it's not about gossiping and things like that, but it's real communication and being really vulnerable with each other, then it's time to find a women's circle. Or and if you need help with that, I mean, reach out reach out, because that's key to mental health for women. I absolutely know that. Hmm.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing, how you're helping with the mixture
Hmm.
of mental as well as physical. And more importantly, some of the things for the ladies to keep an eye out for. Because, like I said, our mind tells us we're the worst first,
Yeah. Yep.
and, sometimes we get trapped in there. And I appreciate you highlighting some of the things they can think about that shows that they
Yeah.
may need some of your assistance. Now, as we tie a bow on it, I want you to share with us, what does an engagement look like if they do make that call? I
Hmm.
know you have an ideal plan, you need to stay here
Hmm.
for a specific time. So just give us an average idea of what an engagement looks like when I sign on to work with you.
Sure. Sure. So first we meet and do kind of an overall assessment of kind of where you're at and what you're looking for. And then we'll do some sessions where we're doing some goals, short-term and long-term goals, and set up kind of a plan that involves some more cognitive work in terms of looking at limiting beliefs and challenging those, and also looking at some uh, cognitive distortions and how those affect things. And then we do some somatic work, which looks like, well, sometimes will do meditation and some nervous system regulation work, and also usually some physical movements. But somatic work involves things like bringing up things from the past, things that might be stuck as trauma in your body, in your fascia, and then we'll do some shaking, or we'll do uh, some TRE, or some brushing, some tapping, things like that. And I have unique methods that I use. So it's a variety of different ways that we get the trauma discharged from your body.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, like I said, just trying to give everyone an idea of
Yep.
what it is. Now, I know it's not going to be the same way each time because everyone has something different, but I at least wanted to give them a preview of
Yeah.
some of the things that they're looking at. And I know that over time, your journey, your time in school, your time being a clinician, you have acquired and nurtured a bunch of best practices that have helped you to be successful. Do you mind sharing with the audience a couple of those best practices?
Sure. Yeah. The one thing I think is really important is taking out your ego from the work. The way that I say is, when I'm with a client, I sort of erase myself and my ego so that the space I'm holding is open for them. I think a lot of times coaches or psychologists or whatever have their own agenda in the room, in the space, and then they're missing out on what's present for the client. And they're just like, okay, here, let me tell you what to do, or let me tell you what I think.
Hmm.
And when they're doing that, that's about them and their ideas, not about what's best for the client. They may have a certain method or system that they use it's not applicable for everyone. You have to be able to hold space without your agenda and your thoughts in order to be really receiving the client and reacting from there. The client has the healing within them. It's not me. I am just simply the container. So I think that's the number one thing. I mean, yes, we all come with our methods and all that stuff, but that's kind of bullshit beside the point. The truth is, like in research after research, what heals in this therapeutic relationship is the relationship.
Yes.
It's not the technique.
Yeah.
So it's that genuine positive regard. And that's my other thing is compassion and authenticity are key. So if you get into this field, and people do for the wrong reason, like you think you're going to make money, which you won't. I mean, or because you think it's prestigious or because you think it's a clever thing to do, you're not going to last very long. You have to be in it for the right reason. You have to be authentic. You have to really genuinely care about people, and you have to be very compassionate and empathetic, because some of your clients you may not like. They may be different than you, and you got to check your bias too. Some people may not recognize their bias, and that may come up in sessions, and that will be a problem. You have to know which clients you can and can't work with. And if you can't, then you need to be aware of that and have people to refer them to, because I've seen that too. And I had one client who came to me. It was heartbreaking. She said that she saw a therapist once, and first time in her whole life told the therapist that she had been sexually abused, and the therapist just kept taking notes and was very dismissive. And then she came to me, and I really caution therapists and coaches to be trauma informed, because so many are not, and it can really do damage to people when you're not. So that's my other thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Being genuine and meeting people where they are instead of where you want them to be are some of those things that you share. And I definitely appreciate that, because I do the same thing with my sales team. I want them to be superstars, but they don't know. So I got to meet them where they are and get them where they want to go. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now, we've talked a lot about a lot of heavy. We talked about a lot of heavy so far. I want to talk a little bit more about you, though. So we've talked about your journey. We've talked about the business and how you're helping people. But let's just say that you are continuing to help people. Your online stuff is just blowing up. Now time and money is no issue at all. What is it that Dr. Joe would do with her time?
Okay. Well, I'm writing a book. I've co-authored 2 books. My first solo book is coming out. It's called Embodiment, a 90-day somatic reclamation. That will be out hopefully this summer. And then I've got 4 other books I'm writing.
Okay.
A novel that just came to me. I'm a writer. I'm a poet. I have been for a long time, and I teach poetry workshops because we're all poets. It's just a matter of getting over our block. And poetry is a beautiful way to access the subconscious and process material. I think creativity is really necessary for processing material and working through things too. So that I would be doing books and doing spoken word. I've started doing spoken word. I love that. And also I have a dream of having a full-time retreat center for women, where people who can afford will pay a little higher price, and people who cannot will have scholarships and be able to go to. And my idea is that the healers will be there serving for a week, and then the healers themselves will receive services for the next week. And women who are in domestic situations will be able to stay there for extended periods of time until they're safe.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, if you had to choose a location to write the book or write the poems, are you going to be on a lake? You're going to be on the beach, on a boat, in a mountain? What is that ideal setting for you?
Hawaii pops to my mind.
Okay.
That's a beautiful place to be.
Yes.
But I'm sort of a down home Minnesotan too. I love the North Shore.
Okay.
I could be there. I think I'll probably be traveling everywhere.
Okay.
I think I'll be in an airplane, not in the airplane, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Just traveling around.
I would love to go to Africa.
Okay.
Too. So yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
if there's no,
Yeah, we have
no
all the we
obstacle,
have
I'll be
all the
all over the
money.
place.
We have all the
Yeah,
money in the
yeah.
world. We can go wherever
I'll
we
be
want.
I'll be
Okay.
everywhere.
Oh,
I had a friend who was coming to my retreat from England,
mm-hmm.
and it was so sad. She called me up and she said, "Joe, I can't come to your country. I'm scared." And I'm like, "Girl, I'm that now, aren't I?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm.
am that country."
Yes, I
It's
guess
so
so. Yes,
sad.
that is
But
true. I didn't think about that until right now. Yes, yes,
right?
yes, yes. Well, it's ups and downs and all arounds and all the things. So,
Things
what?
will change.
Yeah, I would say what is now won't be later. So we'll just continue
That's
to
right.
go forward from there. Now, if the
Yep.
people that are watching today have questions about the services you provide, the books that you're creating, or just more questions about your journey, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, my email is joe@TulaSoul, TulaSoul. My website is tulasoul.com. And my Instagram is Holistic Coach Joe. That's with two C's. And yeah, that's probably the best ways. Mhm.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Now, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing
Thank
with
you.
us. We always honor our guests for coming on and sharing the ups, downs, and all arounds throughout their journey. And we want to give you the last word. So, Dr. Joe, if you don't mind, please look into the camera and tell the people something good.
All right. I want to quote Audre Lorde from this book, and it has to do with poetry. I think this is just beautiful. For women, then, poetry is not a luxury. It is a vital necessity of our existence. It forms the quality of the light within which we predicate our hopes and dreams towards survival and change. First made into language, then into idea, then into more tangible action. Poetry is the way we help give name to the nameless, so it can be thought. The farthest horizons of our hopes and fears are cobbled by our poems, carved into the rock experience of our daily lives. So
Awesome.
again, poetry and voice is how we heal.
Yes, got to express those feelings. So, thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you,
on the
Ron.
show today.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. I appreciate you.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Thank you so much. And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.